Okay, we are going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Bub, Koss, Frazier, Floyd, and Marmee. First item on the agenda is a request for an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 100 General Fund in the amount of $4,782.15.
This request is to reimburse the Division of Cemetery and Parks for their work with the summer youth program.
Motion.
Motion by Floyd, second by Bub. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $50,000. We have actually two. We have to kind of move these from the OPT then to maintenance of vehicles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been a discussion here. I think it's no secret that we're struggling with our maintenance budget this year. The fire department, we've had a significant amount of fees and service fees that have got us into the red, or almost into the red. So we're working and we're projecting that we're going to need more money. We do need more money. The current money that's allocated in the account, we have bills outstanding that we're going to pay with that money as well. So we did a spreadsheet and shared that information to what exactly we will need moving forward for the year. We know that there's a lot of things that I made a spreadsheet here that shows exactly where the money's spent. We have a spreadsheet of the money that has been spent and every penny of it. We are concerned that the maintenance budget, and we're sure that it's not going to make it to the end of the year. Keep in mind that our fire fleet is, all of our trucks are over 10 years old, minus the new rescue that was purchased by the city, which helped us greatly. However, when you have a fire truck that's 10 years old, they start accruing significant maintenance needs, and they are expensive to fix. So we have requested, we've done some math. The request is quite hefty at $50,000. I understand that's a lot of money. That was a conservative number that we've chosen to move forward to try to get our trucks maintained. We believe that we're trying to be as conservative as we can with the money, do everything we can looking into new maintenance plans and even truck replacements moving forward to eliminate the need to have all the maintenance money going into a truck that's probably in need of replacement. So we respectfully request that we have some money pushed into the maintenance budget so we can continue to fix our fire trucks and keep them on the road.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Frazier.
What is the current budget? How much have you spent? How much are you ultimately requesting?
We have our annual budget for, our annual budget for maintenance is $110,000. Historically, over the last 10 years, we've overspent that budget, but we've managed to move some money around and make it happen to get things taken care of. Sometimes towards the end of the year, there's a lot of our internal line item budgets that will move money around to try to make that happen and get things taken care of. Currently, we have spent, we have spent $91,390 of that $110,000. Some of those were obviously unforecasted mechanical problems. The ladder truck downtown, I think I've mentioned this a few times while standing here, had a $21,000 rebuild on the motor. We've had some mechanical issues with our old rescue, which we had to keep it on the road. We have to take our trucks back and have them, all of them from bumper to bumper, evaluated and safe, and it costs money to do that. But your preventative maintenance, specifically, we know what it costs to do preventative maintenance, and we can cost that out throughout the year. It is these unforeseen mechanical failures and things that we have that we can't forecast that. It's just too dynamic of a situation with our trucks. In an effort to reduce the wear and tear on the current vehicles we have to get more time out of them, I have changed the run cards The dispatch runs that we have reduced the responses. I've done everything I can possibly do to try to eliminate the wear and tear on those vehicles and send the least amount of people to an emergency that can handle the emergency. If you need additional people, you can call for them. So that was a change in the way we're trying to do a response here in Newark. So we've identified that we've had about $23,000 that shows in that line item. We have some recent bills and purchasing cards that need paid, which takes our line item down to $21,918. And then we have some queued repairs that we know are going to have happen here very quickly. We have 2 fire trucks that need some pump test work, ladder testing, reserve engine needs repaired at $12,000. Routine maintenance is about $3,500, what we're looking at this point, to a subtotal of about $25,000. And so we're negative $3,518 right now. Spacing that out throughout the year, we know that if we continue this trend, we're going to be significantly in the red. So we thought that asking for $50,000 right now was a reasonable request to get through the year with the current fleet that we have. Did I answer your question, Mr. Frazier?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Feel good. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Bell.
Where does the budget stabilization, where does that fund stand right now, and how would this affect that? You know, I don't see Steve here.
I don't see him here. Mr. Mayor or Dave, when we moved the money from the budget stabilization, what that left with us with about, was it 300,000?
Yeah.
I thought it was right around 300,000. And to piggyback on that, are we going to try it with the tax collections where they are we going to try to recertify and then have actually an unappropriated balance?
Eventually, and I think the auditor will have to speak to that, but obviously it'll have to be stabilized enough to be sure. Again, collections aren't, you could have a down month. But
Exactly.
there's swings to that. So.
Right. Okay.
And one other question.
Sure.
And Chief, maybe you know, if not, the Service Director might know. When we balance the budget this year with a 90-10, how much does that take out of your, compared to the normal 85-15? What's a roundabout number, what that took out?
I don't have those figures in front of me. I don't.
What that does, just kind of wondering what that took out of your capital improvement money, and what we took out, because we took, cut that back.
Yeah, in 2016, there was a discussion of no capital money for public safety, just try to get through the year, making sure we save jobs and those types of things. However, we did have an emergency where we did purchase a fire engine, which we greatly needed and appreciate very, very much. But that.
Ryan, just an estimate without looking, 500,000 to 600,000.
There you go.
Chief, this isn't something that he's not aware of. We talked on the phone ahead of time, but I feel comfortable proceeding with like $20,000. We have some other things that might be coming up. If we do recertify, we could have money in an unappropriated balance versus the budget stabilization. Plus, I told the chief, we'll monitor this. If we need to come back with another request or something, but that budget stabilization, I know this committee, in talking with a couple members, we want to make sure that we keep some tight reins on that. But when it's needed, we know we're going to have to use it. We do have to use it. So I told the chief that I felt that we'd probably be comfortable with like 20,000 instead of 50, and he might be right back up here in another month if something goes wrong severely. But we recognize that. And we also, if an emergency comes up, he's aware of the now clause that we can do. And so, I assured him that I'm in support of the safety forces and making sure that we do take care of the things that we have to. The other thing that I will state that, and again, I'm not blindsiding the chief here at all, I've stated that we have a little bit of a broken model with our fire department, and we have to look at all different options. We started with the assistant fire chief position. I have some personal opinions. This isn't the opinions of necessarily this committee, so I want to make sure that is clear. We still need to pursue part-time firefighters. Whether or not that is a fix, we don't know. And that's a bargaining issue. If it doesn't go through, we have to have a plan B. What that plan B is, I don't know, but I have personal opinions. If it gets so severe where we can't operate with our safety services, especially our fire and our EMS, we have to look at all options. And all options might be privatizing it. It might be looking at trying to combine and have a fire district of some kind with Heath and Granville, or just one of those entities, or else, who knows, but we have to start exploring these different options. Because right now we cannot sustain economically the expenses as far as our labor force with our safety services, with our current model. And when I say with our current model, that could be not only staffing model, it could be, what shifts. There's a whole different or variety of ways in which we can try to address that issue. And I talked to the chief about this extensively, and we're going to have to look at all the different options. And the reason why I'm saying that during this time period is because, like the chief said, last year he was able to move some money. He had a little bit of wiggle room in his budget. This year he does not. Next year it's going to be worse. So, that's what we're staring at right now, and we have to start addressing this. The other thing is, we talk about the safety of citizens, and we have an issue when on sunny days and holidays we have an abundance of sick individuals or individuals calling off, and then we do not have anybody to work overtime, not willing to work overtime. That means that the safety of our citizens is not because of financial, it's just because someone's not willing to work. We have to make sure that we have things in place so that does not occur. And I really commend the chief. When I talked to him about these, and like I said, I didn't blindside him with this. I told him that I was going to say some of these things. He says he understands, and I do commend him on that. I think that we are on the same page, that we know that something needs to be done. We may not be on the exact same page on what needs to be done, but we need to be discussing it. And I think that when I say we, it's not just council, it's an administration thing, it's our safety forces, it's our partners in the bargaining units, and so it has to start being discussed. And so with that, Ryan, I believe...
Yeah, I would make a motion to amend this down to $20,000 for the time being.
I'll second.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Sure.
So, how far will $20,000 get you?
Well, it's a dynamic situation. We can get some time out of $20,000, and I appreciate the appropriation for that amount, knowing that there's a good potential that you'll see me again asking for more money. I'm working every day to try to reduce these costs and keep these trucks on the road so we're not having to stand here and ask for more city money to take care of the fleet. I've ad nauseum talked to everyone here about the state of the fire department's fleet. We do need to plan moving forward for replacement. Some capital money definitely needs to happen to get us out of the hole that we're in currently with the fleet itself and some other things that we've pushed forward. I can respect the fact that the city is tight, not only my budget, but the police chief and everyone else. I'm willing to work with the city and do what we can do to keep everybody working, keep everybody's vehicles on the road and things going forward. There's an everyday budget concern. Every conversation starts with budget in my world when I'm not here. It always starts about money. So we talk about it daily. It is on my mind regularly, all night. And I am very conscious of what's going on with the city, and I'm trying to be as efficient as I can. I talked to Mr. Marmee today on the phone and kind of explained a few things, even just down to the floor mats in the fire stations, the dumpsters that we use for trash. We've consolidated a lot of our bills. We liquidated $9,000 worth of equipment just laying around that we didn't use anymore and pushed that back into this maintenance budget to help us get through the year. So we're making every effort that we can on our end to squeeze every penny out of every dollar that we have.
Yes, Mr. Kraus.
Sure. Chief, by going from 50 to 20, are you going to have to postpone what you consider essential repairs or upgrades or how? I mean, we've all got budgets that we have to work under, but, you know, I figure you wouldn't have asked for 50 if you didn't think
No,
that the number you
The fact of the matter is, I'll be back for more money when that's over. When we use all that money, we do have a significant amount of maintenance needs. Aside from just putting oil and fuel in the trucks, we also have testing that comes out of that account. So all of our aerial ladders, ground ladders are tested out of that account. Our pumps tested. We had 2 fire trucks fail pump test. So we have to have that fixed by the NFPA requirements to make sure the pumps will pump when we get on the scene of a fire. So that is not an option to wait a couple months until the money comes in. That has to be fixed immediately when identified. So that is just a snapshot of what we use in maintenance. Just today, this morning, when this conversation was happening, before I talked to Mr. Marmee, ladder 2 had a front wheel, left wheel problem and had to go to the maintenance shop immediately. Placed out of service while they worked on that left front wheel. I didn't see that coming. I don't know what happened, but it costs money for a mechanic to look at a fire truck, a lot of money. So those are the unforecasted things that we look at, whether they hit a pothole or whether whatever it was, they had a maintenance problem first thing this morning. And anytime you put a ladder truck in a maintenance bay, it's very expensive. So I do worry about these things. But what's important to me is to let you know that I can come back and we can continue to fund the maintenance as we move forward, and I will be as efficient as I can until then. So when that $20,000 runs out, I'll come back. And there's the then and now we talked about and those types of things. I want to be a good steward of the community and make sure that everybody's needs are met, not just mine, although I do want mine met as well. So.
And just to explain, what basically we're asking of the chief, he projected out for the next 5.5 months. We're saying, okay, let's just look at a couple months. Let's get us through a couple of months. Let's see where we're at there. And let's see if we have a new, if we've recertified and we now have an unappropriated balance in our general fund versus the budget stabilization. Who knows what might happen? But we need to take shorter spurts during this time frame as far as our budget. And that's what we're asking of the chief, is to do that. Mr. Frazier.
So the 3518 is for, the negative 3518, that's for your immediate needs that you've identified. So that $20,000 gets you over that hump, gives you some leeway.
Yes, and our current balance is $21,918, so we have the money almost to cover that. We're a little short to cover that. So the $20,000 that we have after those bills are paid will be for any unforeseen maintenance issues moving forward this year. For instance, like I said, $21,000 to rebuild Ladder 1's motor. I hope that one of the other trucks doesn't have that, or I'll be back very quickly. But we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we be efficient. I just don't know.
Yes.
If I come back, I'll tell you.
Thank you. I'll be here.
Any other questions on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 3-2. Now, on the full appropriation, any further questions or discussion on the amended version? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
The motion passes 4-1. Okay, now we have the other one for the maintenance of vehicles.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Bub?
Make a motion to amend that number to $20,000.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion by Bub, second by Frazier. All those in favor of the amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of the amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Chief.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to enter into an agreement with specialized legal counsel for the purpose of developing and implementing a program of tax and incremental financing for the Kroger Marketplace and Thornwood Corridor areas and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. As the resolution states, we're looking to do 2 more TIFs. To do so, we're going to need to hire outside counsel to do all the necessary legal document work for these, and I would like to go back and use KMA K Law out of Cincinnati that we just recently used last year to do the River Road TIF. So that's what I'm here before you tonight. I could briefly talk about each of the TIFs if you would like to give you a little background information on why we want to move forward with those if you prefer, or would you like to just stick to the resolution at hand and discuss the allowing us to go for outside counsel legal?
I'd like to hear the...
Sure, I'd be glad to, Carol. The reason for the Kroger Marketplace TIF is we would like to capture those costs, those improvement costs that are being incurred right now by Kroger on those pieces of property as they do the new construction. The money from that TIF would be used to do improvements on Evans and Baker Boulevards. Right now those are incomplete roads, and we would like to bring those together as well as build the bridge that would be necessary over the Log Pond Run diversion ditch. And so that's the primary reason we want to capture those. We've got one chance to capture those improvement costs, and that would be this year. We have to have the legislation for the TIF to capture those dollars, which is just under $12 million. It's right around $11.8 million. So we'd certainly like to have that opportunity. The Thornwood Drive TIF, you may recall back in March of this year, we did a PowerPoint presentation giving an overview of the Thornwood Drive corridor. Mayor Hall and Mayor Johns from the city of Heath came over and spoke to the importance of this north-south connector from Route 16 to Route 79 and ultimately to Interstate 70. That TIF, again, would allow us to capture improvement cost to help fund infrastructure costs to develop that area. It's obviously going to be a major area for economic development for both Newark and Heath, and with the Cherry Valley Road interchange being completed, I think it's going to be a natural fit for that connector from the Cherry Valley Road area, again, over to Route 79 and on into Interstate 70. I can tell you that David Rhodes and I have met with Newark City School Board members, primarily Jeff Anderson, the Newark City School Board Treasurer, as well as School Board member Warren Weber, and they are much in favor of these TIFs, especially if it involves economic development and additional jobs for our community. And they would even go so far as to create a resolution of support from the school board to the Newark City Council. And I guess in closing, discussing this with City Engineer Brian Moorhead, as far as what are our options to try to complete the Evans and Baker Boulevard projects, as well as the bridge that would need to be built to complete that. And he said this may be one chance to really ever get this accomplished and have some additional funds other than the capital improvements budget. So there's my presentation. I'd be glad to answer any other questions.
Mr. Chair. So the property value for the TIF, is it last year's property value if we pass it this year? Is that why we need to pass it through this year?
Mark, the way the TIF works, you capture the improvement cost that'll be done. So right now the basis for that tax would be probably whatever Kroger paid for the property. Now, all the work that they are doing is called improvement cost. We capture the taxes based on those improvement costs. So if the improvement costs are $11.8 million, we would capture the taxes, which would typically be property taxes. We would capture those.
Mr. Chair. As far as Heath, are they performing a TIF as well? Is that in the works right now?
Yeah, good question. I was on the phone with Mayor Mark Johns this afternoon to get an update from him. He recently sent a proposal over to their school board last week outlining what they would like to propose for a TIF for the Heath area. And They hope to meet with the school board probably late this month or first part of August to have discussion with the school board and see if they're on the same page, if they want to try to move forward with that.
And then as far as the contract with KMAL, is that what you said?
KMA law.
Is that to cover both of these, so we get a 2-for-1 deal, or?
Exactly. I contacted KMK Law, and they gave me a proposal about $5,000 to do the Kroger TIF and about $7,500 to do the Thornwood Drive corridor TIF. So yeah, if they can combine those, obviously we get the efficiencies of cost by getting the 2-for-1 basically.
Who's paying for that? Where's that from? Where are those?
Service Director Rhodes says he has some monies that can cover those costs for us.
And to help with the question that Mark asked, currently the tax basis for that property is $11,800,000, and the estimated public improvement would be $3 million. So, any additional questions or comments?
Make a motion.
Motion by Bub, second by Floyd. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing the motions on the floor. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $3,500.
This request pertains to our EMS grant from the state of Ohio. Captain Metzger has some needs that he needs to fulfill right away, so the request is to expedite this appropriation.
Motion.
Motion by Bob, second by Floyd. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. And with that, the Finance Committee meeting stands adjourned. Next up, I believe, is service.
Okay, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Raff, Cost, Bub, Frazier, and Floyd. Up first on the agenda, and only, is to consider ordinance 16-30, an ordinance annexing certain territory generally described as being approximately 2 acres, more or less, located in Newark Township to the city of Newark, Ohio. A very description. 2 acres in Newark Township. Approximately, more or less. Mr. Moorhead.
Sure.
Welcome to the podium. You have the floor, sir.
Any questions?
Yeah, what are we doing? All right, I'll start out.
Property owners applied for annexation to the city, and it's 2 acres, I believe. Is this the one on Buena Vista Street? And I believe he wants to build a house on it, and it's been through the county, so I think it's all the preliminary legislation's already been through.
Intersection of Skyline Drive and North Buena Vista Street.
Yes, yes.
So that property is currently occupied by what?
It's just a field, I believe.
Okay. And is it neighbored by a residential?
The on the west side would be the residential that fronts on Buena Vista Street. On the east side of the property is the church that fronts on North Cedar Street. Yeah, Church of God.
Okay. All right. And the procedure for this, we pass this on to full council and then goes to the Planning Commission? Or no?
It'll go to Planning Commission to establish the zoning later on, but that's after this gets passed by council.
Okay. And you would anticipate the zoning being?
Residential.
Okay.
single-family residential.
What am I not asking about this that I should be?
It's pretty simple. I don't think there's anything complicated about this one at all.
Any other questions from the committee?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Bub. Second by Frazier. Any questions from anybody in the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Appreciate it as always. And the Service Committee will stand adjourned. Up next will be Ways and Means.
Okay, we will call the Ways and Means Committee to order. We have one item, and consider resolution number 1659, authorizing the clerk of council to submit a request to the Licking County Auditor to certify the total current tax evaluation of the city of Newark, Ohio, and the dollar amount of revenue that would be generated from an additional tax of 1 mills and declaring an emergency.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson.
Mr. Frazier.
Mark Frazier, 20 West North Street, Newark, Ohio, 43055. I come before you tonight, and this is the first step in a process to put a property tax levy on the ballot. We have heard from the administration about the need for additional revenue for capital improvements for streets, fire service, and police service. This would address those as well as an additional need in our community, and that is parks and recreation. 75% of this levy would go to police, fire, and streets, and 25% will be guaranteed funding for the parks and recreation. I encourage this committee to pass this on for full council for a full council vote in order to make sure that all members of the council are heard and we properly address this. This is an expedited item because of significant date constraints. If it is held up either in this or in the next reading, it will not make the ballot. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. And do you have any questions from committee?
So this is just asking for information, this is not supporting the tax increase, is that correct?
Correct. This goes to the county in order for them to certify the property amounts, what the levy would equal, and then an additional resolution will be passed into council through this committee in order for an actual tax increase.
And just a follow-up to that, and it's just because you brought it up. So what is the urgent need for our parks and recreation?
So Parks and Recreation currently is fully allocated from the general fund. Most municipalities get guaranteed funding either through property tax or designated income tax. We are a community that is dependent on the general fund for all of our parks and all the services that our Parks Department provides. And so by providing guaranteed funding through this, not only do we meet our capital needs, but it also sets us up for the future to have a more stable Parks and Recreation fund.
And so as far as priorities, where do you set up priorities for Parks and Recreation versus other items that
So the way
services are?
the greatest benefit of having this funding for Parks and Recreation is to ease the constraint on our general fund, which is a lot of our problems right now. And so it's kind of a roundabout way to encourage a more proactive approach to funding, as well as the ability to leverage our needs out of the general fund into more dedicated streams.
And just one final question, can this allocation be changed by future councils?
So every 10 years, this goes up for renewal. As far as the legality of changing it,
the percentages? That
yes, I do not have the answer to that. You would have to ask the law director. I do not know. Do you know the answer?
Have we changed allocations of previous earmarked money?
Are you talking from the general fund, the capital improvements percentages? I believe that this council last year did.
Right. And I believe it can be changed.
Any other questions?
Any questions?
To gather information on the motion.
I'll second that.
I think you have a question.
I'm sorry.
You have a question.
Oh, Mr. Rath?
I have two questions. One is, what is the cost to the city to send this request to the county?
I believe
Should they?
Okay.
And two is, we are on time constraints, if this is to be a valid issue. What is the, what is compelling the county to cooperate in a timely manner?
So I talked to the county officials. They've already given us an estimate. This is an official certification. And so they expect a 2-day turnaround time in order for them to certify. As far as your first question, what was that again?
How much is it going to cost us to get this certification?
The way that I understand it is, since it's a presidential year, it does not cost us anything, but I am not positive about that. So I don't know who we could ask to clarify that, but the way that I understand it is, since it's a presidential year, it doesn't cost anything, but I could be mistaken.
You're talking about a cost to put on the ballot or a cost to get the certification?
It does not cost to get certification, is my understanding.
Anyone else? David?
Is there a proposal for the division of the...
Can we call people up to the podium?
Oh, yes, would you come up to the podium and state your name and address, please?
David Green, 1791 Olympic Court. Is there a proposed division of the 75% between paving, police, and fire? And if so, what is it?
There is not a proposed breakdown within that 75%. The expectation that I had for that is it would be allocated as needed. And so the greatest problem that we have is if we set a permanent funding structure and then those needs change and we have no flexibility to address those changes. So I felt that putting this proposal forth as is would give us the greatest flexibility to use the money as it's needed.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of moving on to full councils, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, aye. So it passes 2-1. Next, we have Capital Improvement Committee.
Okay, I'll call the meeting of the Capital Improvements Committee. Members Rath, Frazier, Hall, Floyd, Perletta, and Johnson. We have one item of business, resolution number 1660, appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation, which includes machinery and equipment for $1,239.95.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're looking to buy 5 trimmers for the Parks and Cemetery Department. We have roughly 30,000 headstones that we trim each time we cut and we trim, and we wear trimmers out quite frequently. Last year, we had bought 10 new ones. We think we can get by with 5 this year. So the request is for 5.
Thank you. Have any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Do we also use this for delinquent property mowing as well?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Property maintenance, trimming, yes.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Rath, seconded by Frazier. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.